The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Mains Radio. Your chance to have your say on whatever you choose. You're on the air by calling 66 13 68. Text, email and WhatsApp. And the floor's yours. Just a quick word. I think we got the tide tables. Base about apex. Low water 16 minutes past 4. High tide 9 minutes past 10 tonight. Low water in the morning is 20 past 4 a.m. Get it? Got it? Good. Right, let's get to the lines now. And first of all, David's with us now on Mannin Line. Hi, David.
Hi, Randy. Just want to thank a government department, because some time ago, I don't know whether you realise, I've kept it. There's a list of all events that's happening in the Isle of Man up until Christmas.
Right.
And you'll be glad to know Boxing Day is still the 26th of December.
Good.
But looking down the thing, I'm aware that there are a number, probably 16 or 17 odd, Ferrari owners coming to the Isle of Man. Now, my opinion is we're used to having the Porsches came some years ago. There was other exciting machinery that came to the Isle of Man, which gives us an opportunity. But I just wondered, how far is government or the DOI helping or supporting the individuals displaying? I believe there's a bit of a problem of displaying the vehicles. They want to have a few hours to display them on the prom or near the Villa Marina. So I'm just wondering, why doesn't our politicians or somebody take a grip of these things? When a lot of people can, I'll never own a Ferrari. I may own a dinky model, but that's about as all I'll own in the future. But it's nice to see these people coming to the Isle of Man, and we want to give them, in our experience anyway, a good time.
Whereabouts by the War Memorial, somewhere like that? Are they thinking of?
Well, I think so. I don't know. It would be a good idea to find out when all that the concrete is finished, and hopefully it's going to be finished before the real summer starts. But the Ferrari owners, I believe, are coming on the 22nd of April to the 27th of April, so that's not far away now, is it? And it's like we did years ago when we met, when I was a political member too. We met the Porsche Owners Club, and we're known for our things for cycling, motorcycling, all sorts of stuff that happens on the Isle of Man. Because I'm almost amazed, really, when people say to me there's nothing to do. And I'll give credit if I knew who produced this coloured leaflet back in front there. It says 2025 visitors events calendar. And I kept it, and I've gone through it and highlighted things I want to do as well.
Well, it's interesting. The fact is that people with high-performance machines, motor cars, do like coming to the Isle of Man. Purely, the fact is there's the TT course to have they can now drive around. But remember, the Gordon Bennett speed trial started way back over 100 years ago. So we've got real form where this is concerned, and the fact that they want to come here is great. And bearing in mind they've got Ferraris, they won't be short of a bob or two, I would imagine.
Well, yes, and I was just wondering whether we'll have enough spare 20-mile-an-hour signs where we're going to get them signed and we'll be able to auction off for a good cause.
All right. So that's the 22nd to the 27th of April. Is it the Ferrari Owners Club or just a collection of drivers?
No, it says the Ferrari Owners Club.
Wow.
On the blurb that I've seen anyway on this events list. And it's got their email address for the Ferrari Owners Club. I was thinking of sending them a little email to say, welcome to the Isle of Man, but if they don't get anywhere to park, it'll be useless, won't it?
Right, so are they genuinely stuck at the moment? They don't know where they're going to display the machines for a few hours?
Well, the problem is, it's like at any government department. Somebody needs to give the answer to somebody. Yes, we can do it. The Isle of Man is known for we can do things, can't we?
Well, you would have thought that somebody at the Visit Isle of Man would get involved and just do something about it. Whether or not they're going to display them by, the TT start at the grandstand in the paddock somewhere like that would be ideal.
They'd love that. And can you get? I remember Alan Bell and Tony Brown as well saying to his donkeys years ago that we can actually, how much credit you get from magazines that go around the world, and then somebody picks it up in another country and says, the Isle of Man, that's where the cats are, and there's motorcycle racing. What else do they do?
Yeah.
We do a lot.
Yeah, no, good point. Well, we wish them well and hope it all works out. And like you, I may go away along and just look longingly at a Ferrari.
And ask how much does it cost to insure?
Can you imagine? All right, thanks for calling today. All right, so cheers now. 12 minutes past midday, and Julian's on with us as well now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Kind of tallies with what I was going to talk about, Ferraris and Porsches flying around the place and enjoying our unique status. I don't think there's anywhere in the world that actually has rural roads with no speed limits. I know we have the Autobahn in Germany, and I think Montana tried it years ago in summertime and stuff. But this brings me to the 20 mile per hour rollout. And I was thinking, rather than concentrating on the minister, it might be useful to hear from the civil servants at DOI who are probably advising Michelle Hayward. So, namely, Jeff Robinson and the Director of Highway Services, Blessing Peduru. I noticed that Blessing is also an advisor to UNOPS, or the United Nations Office for Project Services, who deal with road and other infrastructure strategies around the world. And interestingly, the United Nations has recently endorsed 20 mile per hour speed limits globally. The UN statement reads, "In moving a default speed limit into the global mainstream, the United Nations is promoting sustainable mobility timed to benefit from the EU's adoption of mandatory speed limiters on cars." And Blessing stated a few months ago on the Isle of Man Living Hope Church podcast that she likes to make a difference to communities through infrastructure, especially during this period of climate change. So it might be useful to hear from Jeff and Blessing to get some clarity on the reasoning why we've got these 20 mile per hour zones here, and if perhaps this is a push from the United Nations with, their sustainable development goals.
Well, and speed limiters are quite common on lots of things, aren't they? I mean, across on the motorways, you'll often see vans or trucks with, speed limiter in place, 60 mile an hour maximum, and something like that, Julian.
Yeah, I know, but I don't. When you start putting it on every car, I mean, there's a reason why they have those speed limiters, with heavy loads and stuff. But if they're going down that road, I also, just tying with this, did you happen to see Lord Offord of Garville's speech yesterday in the House of Lords?
Sadly, no. What was it about?
He was stating about why net zero is unachievable, even though he advocated for it. He mentioned things like the price that we're paying for electricity for industry, for example, has diverged by 6 times compared to the wholesale price, and 3 times more for people at home paying than what the actual cost of gas is, which I think I've mentioned to you. I've noticed that the retail price, the wholesale price of gas has dropped massively. And he's saying that the reason for all these highly inflated prices is the incredibly high cost of the subsidies, the curtailment fees when you literally have to pay them to switch off, and all the grid upgrades. And he's saying that the network upgrade just for the UK is going to be 95 billion over the next 5 years, possibly up to 116 billion. So this is perhaps why they're trying to cover the costs of all the net zero upgrades and also having to handle all the intermittent nature. So this is, in the House of Lords, this chap's saying all this.
Well, nobody's mentioned
course,
this. Nobody's mentioned this on the Isle of Man, and you're quite right in that the current energy infrastructure is primarily designed for fossil fuels here. Transitioning to renewable energy will mean an overhaul of our infrastructure on the Isle of Man, and that means new transmission lines, energy storage facilities, an upgraded grid system. This is, if we're going to efficiently distribute energy, the transformation really is a massive undertaking, let alone, just putting up wind turbines. But financially and logistically, this could take decades to happen. And this is, if you think of the north of the Isle of Man, where a lot of the energy, a lot of the electricity is in overhead wires direct to people's houses. So how on earth we're going to do that for renewables, where we're going to get the money from, is not yet clear, and it will be nice to hear.
Yeah, Lord Offord also made the point that in 2019, the Houses of Parliament passed the net zero legislation with only 1 hour and 10 minutes of deliberation and no real oversight or any kind of calculation. So this might be, they might be ruining the day that they didn't actually apply a little bit more thought to it, because even he's shocked at the cost of everything that he's seeing. And of course, being in the House of Lords, he'll have access. He's also saying that France, staying with nuclear, has got a price that is a half of the UK's price. Yeah. He said that if you took all the world's battery storage, it would only run the UK for 12 hours, and it's cost an absolute fortune. Well, and he's worried about, as we've said, baseload. How are we going to maintain baseload?
And certainly, I read something, I think last week, about the French, who are terribly happy about the problems that Germany has with intermittency at the moment. And obviously, they're plugging in, they're supplying a lot of electricity to Germany at the right price, I would imagine. All right, Julian, good to hear from you. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
Good to hear from you. Got a note in from Justin, ex-Isle of Man Fire and Rescue, who said, just backing up what Paul said yesterday, I took some photos regarding the Ronaldsway Tower. We're talking about the highest building on the Isle of Man and also the highest residential one, and whether or not the appliances, fire appliances, could reach them. The appliance that they used at Ronaldsway was a 32-metre Bronto Skylift aerial ladder platform. The new turntable ladder has a reach of 42 metres. Thanks for that. Also, thanks to Craig, who said the Isle of Man has got a proud history in motorsport and four-wheel motorsport, and of course, we've got a long history as far as the rally's concerned. So any thoughts on that? Then by all means get in touch. Martin's with us now. Hi, Martin.
Yeah, hi Andy, thanks for having me on. Just a quick reminder to people that the government consultation on the secondary legislation for the organ donating and human tissue bill is out and about now. And at Ramsey Town Hall at 4 o'clock this afternoon, there's going to be a presentation on it, and people will be invited to give their views and what have you. There's one in Castletown on the 15th of April, one in Peel on the 24th of April. So please make your views known. And is now in the final.
Did you go to the one at the Lochprom Church yesterday in Douglas?
Went to the one last night, yeah. It was, it could have been better attended, but the people that went were obviously asking the right sort of questions. And it's all about the implementation of it. So we're now in the final stretch of it all. So, please make your views known, everybody.
Okay, well, just one thing while you're there, Martin. It's Martin Perkins, former MHK here, by the way, I take it. I'm interested to know, adults over 18 who've not opted out will be considered as donors when they die. But who are the excluded groups? Can you tell me who the excluded groups are?
That's a good question. I think it's people that don't have the ability to decide whether to opt in or not, which will be they will ask their relatives. The relatives are always asked, no matter what happens. Even if you've opted in, the relatives are still approached and give their consent for it. But people say that, I'm over 85. Am I still eligible to be an organ donor? And yes, you are. There's no age limit on it. It depends on the assessing surgeon on how your life and your body has survived, basically. And for things like corneas and things like that, they're just more than welcome to have that contributed to the organ donating bank, basically.
Well, the Human Tissue and Organ Donation Bill got royal assent. Was it July 2021, Martin? What's taken so long?
Well, it's a very involved process, which I didn't realise. It's more the human tissue side of it, actually, than the consent side of it. That was pretty straightforward. And in fact, the island is well above the UK and everywhere else. We got 53% of people have entered their decision, whereas the UK is down to 46%. So 53% of the island want their organs to be donated, which is very philanthropic. I suppose it's our small community that does that. But going back to the secondary legislation, it's things like how anatomical exams are carried out, how human tissues are stored. For example, if the coroner organises or demands a post-mortem on something, how the tissues are stored, how they're disposed of afterwards. It's also about how the families of the the deceased are approached, and how the rules for importing and exporting human remains, because actually blood is a human tissue. So our blood transfusion service may actually import blood from the UK. So it's all these final little details that have to be sorted out. And it actually, when you go into it, things like, for example, Manx National Heritage, they have some really old human remains, old bones and things, and how those are respectfully dealt with. And actually, while I'm on that, go to the Archibald Knox exhibition. It's absolutely fantastic. I recommend anybody go to that. That's that. But it's all the 101 things. I mean, for example, when they do it, and I hope this doesn't put people off their lunch, but when they're doing a post-mortem, there will be body fluids. And again, that is actually human tissue. And it's all the standard operating procedures and how it's all dealt with. And this is a raft of stuff that has to be put together. And if everybody gets that consultation sorted out, everybody gets their views known, hopefully by the end of this month, it can really start being put before Tynwald in July. And we really want to try and get it in the last sitting in July for this year. If we could do that, that'd be fantastic.
It's worth remembering that there are four different people who are alive today purely because of Daniel Boyd, remember, who was the boy from the Isle of Man who became an organ donor after a fatal car accident. His kidneys, liver, pancreas and heart went to four different people, and I think that's the sobering reality of it. Those four people wouldn't have had a future. Sadly, one of them has passed, but three of whom are alive today because of Daniel.
Absolutely. And the recipients never forget it, that their good luck is the result of another family's tragedy. And it gives them sort of comfort and solace to know that the organs have been put to good use.
Okay.
And we have an annual service first week in December, and the donating families get together with the recipients, and it's a very moving service. Okay,
appreciate it, Martin. Thanks for being with us today.
You're welcome, Andy. Thanks very much.
24 minutes past 12. That's the meeting tonight, the public event at Ramsey Town Hall. Actually, at 4 o'clock this afternoon and at 6 o'clock tonight, if you want to go along and find out more about this human tissue and organ donation bill. Remember, when it's law, you will have to opt out rather than opt in, of course. And if you go along, you'll see everything will be explained and just see what the processes are. It's, 12 minutes past... oh, crikey, it's 25 past 12, and Tony's on now. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Andy. How are you?
Well, terrific today, thank you.
Well, I don't want to mess your day up, but just a quick one, and I'm not going to stay on because people complain because it's always the same people. Well, I'd suggest they all get on the phone and have their 5 minutes say. But what I heard the other day was that the Treasury Minister, Mr. Allinson, Dr. Allinson, he said, according to his mates in the Treasury who spend hours working things out, that the inflation rate was what the doctors had ignored when they said, we don't think you should do this. And that's the inflation, the cost of medical treatment at Nobles, or Manx Care. It shouldn't be Nobles, it's Manx Care. So my issue is, he said it was 14%, I think, above inflation.
Yeah.
And I would ask the question, well, what is the cost above inflation of the Treasury officials and the MHKs in the last 5 years? Because I don't think they're very held back, as you would say, on inflation. They haven't stayed under inflation. So let's hear how many people in Treasury have had increases above the inflation rate. And how many people are there on salaries of over £100,000? Because there's more than one. And that could apply to all departments within government. Because what we've got to realise is, yes, the cost of having the NHS as it stands today under Manx Care's rules is going up. But part of that is we keep hiring administrators on ridiculously high salaries. And we don't need administrators to sit at desks and work out numbers to give to somebody to justify their existence. What we need is more nurses and frontline staff, which is what the Doctors Association thinks we should have a reorganisation. And I'd agree with them. I'm sure Mr. Allenson won't, because it would be part of his problem that he's part of the problem, as are all the Treasury officials that are paid high salaries, because they are sucking all the money out of the system.
They'll say, I mean, like bureaucrats do and people who organise things, they will say that obviously things have to be organised, Tony. You can't just turn up and something happens. Things do have to be organised. I think you're talking about the amount of levels of bureaucracy that there are there.
Yes. I mean, if you look at Manx Care and you look at just the board, we were told originally it was going to cost £10 million a year for the board to actually exist. Now, I wonder what that figure is today in administration terms. And it was already working before as a health service under DHSC. And now all of a sudden they've realised that having an arm's length organisation means you've got zero control over its budget.
Yeah.
Because they're not doing any of the control of the budget themselves. I.e. Laurie Hooper. Complete failure to adhere to the budgets, and then he blames the fact you didn't give me enough money. But the problem is, overall, the additional quango we have doesn't achieve anything towards your health. All it does is spend vast sums of money to justify itself.
But I mean, they will say, it's not for me to speak for them, but I'll just paraphrase what I think they may say,
Go on, then.
Which is, the will of the people was, I mean, Tynwald, an elected body, wanted another organisation. They paid for the report, the Jonathan Michaels report. It was the will of Tynwald that we have Manx Care. So Manx Care is just doing its job. You can't blame them. There was a job going, they applied for it, they got it, and that's where they are. So they're doing the job they were asked to do, Tony.
I agree with that, but the problem is they rushed into a report by somebody who was a civil servant who just said, well, we'll form another quango, which is a favourite of government departments. So once again, there was no thought put into this by the government itself, by the MHKs. Nobody thought this was a bad idea because it moves all the blame away from DHSC to somebody else. And that's the truth of the matter. And we spend a fortune justifying that. Why?
Yeah.
Why don't we just admit we've got it wrong?
Well, as you say,
we've got so many other things wrong.
This is all. Remember, this is all in hindsight. If Manx Care had worked out, if it had been leaner and meaner, if you pardon the expression, and if it had done the job and had saved money, everybody would be rushing around patting each other on the back. The problem is, we are where we are. It's not.
It's not working. Even the government and the management of the departments realise there's something wrong. But as usual, instead of saying, right, we've got this all wrong, we've got to stop this right away, we'll move immediately to change it back to DHSC. We'll have direct control. We tried it out, it didn't work. We had somebody in there who ended up costing us millions of pounds because they were basically telling lies about the system, and that's why you don't have any control over it, because it's not under the government.
Okay.
It's under somebody else in the HSC.
How long do you think it'll be before there is a reorganisation, Tony?
I think it has to be sooner rather than later, but as is usual within government departments, and within this government particularly, what we will do is fudge it and say we're not going to properly reorganise it, we're going to make it into a another government department by having a board looking over that board to make sure they're doing what we want.
Yeah, I mean,
which is what's being discussed now.
The only thing I'll point out to you is that there's an election next September. So do you think anything's going to be sorted out before the election?
No, they're going to get the committee in place and then say that solved it. And it's not my fault. Think about it.
All right.
I don't think it's right. Don't get me wrong. I wish they would do something and say, right, enough's enough. Get the chopper out. We'll need to chop all this administration out. We need to get rid of all these high-cost people who are just administrators, and we'll turn it back to what it was, a hospital that was run by nurses, doctors, and people who knew the system, as opposed to pure administrators.
That's interesting. I just had a message in from Ollie, who said what we used to have was a hospital that had administrators, and what we now have is a bureaucracy that happens to have a hospital.
Oh, what a neat way of putting it.
Okay.
Ollie should stand for election.
Right. Okay, good to hear from you. Thanks, Tony.
Just a thought, Andy, just a thought. Okay, you take care.
Good to hear from you. 27 minutes before 1. An online incident over the weekend raised questions about the safety of Tynwald members and what's considered acceptable language when discussing current affairs. It's after an online poll on Facebook suggested the infrastructure minister should be removed from office from her position with a shotgun. Now, Michelle Haywood, MHK, says people are entitled to start a petition to have her sacked, but questioned if it was acceptable to threaten violence. We've been speaking to the president of Tynwald, Lawrence Skelly, about the pitfalls of social media.
I was shocked, quite frankly. Social media, I think, as we all know, can be a very dangerous and toxic environment, but it is absolutely double-edged because it's a great shame, because social media is a powerful tool for good and bad. And sadly, of course, the way the algorithms work, if you like something, you'll get to see more like-minded people. If you dislike something, that will fuel other people. This has obviously escalated, and it's as I say, it's quite shocking.
Following the murder of Southend MP David Amos in 2021, you said this brought the issue of personal security into sharp focus at the time. Is that bringing back to mind now? Has that been a concern over the last few years?
Oh, increasingly. So politicians, of course, are accustomed to criticism, and in the old days that would be that people would either call or they would phone or they'd email, even meet in the street, because our MHKs and politicians here on the Isle of Man are very accessible, and they enjoy that access because then they can hear and listen to what people's concerns are. But it's not all criticism, I might point out. But now I think with the seeing what's happened across the world, actually, with regards to politicians and the danger that they put themselves in if they're not careful. So we, as the Office of Tynwald, have actually issued a members' security guidance. So as when they do engage with the general public, their constituents, that they consider, and a lot of these things are straightforward common sense issues, that they meet in a public place, for example. And we strongly recommend that they use the commissioners because they're very supportive with regards to the national politicians. So it is actually having that in mind when you're actually meeting people. So you do have to be very conscious of it.
I'd really like to hear what you think about this. Michelle Haywood, MHK, says she's reported the post to the constabulary. And Lawrence Skelly says members are issued with guidance on how to stay safe when engaging with constituents, and says politicians should carefully consider their use of social media. Now we have 24 members of the House of Keys publicly elected people who have put themselves forward for election and got a public mandate. There are 8 members of LegCo and 3 ex officio members of LegCo. So in total, 35 people in Tynwald. I just wonder what your thoughts are about the use of language like that Michelle Haywood should be removed from her position with a shotgun. Would you tell me?
As our loved ones age, they carry not only the memories of the past, but also the uncertainties of the future. Secure tomorrow today, with Man Benham's guidance on enduring powers of attorney and more.
Nature's hit refresh. Let's do the same for your home. Spring is in full bloom at Lifestyle Furniture. Enjoy exclusive savings on brand new beautiful beds, super comfy sofas, stunning living and dining furniture, plus 20% off decor and accessories to bring vibrant vibes to every room. And don't forget to explore our garden and outdoor collections. Pop into Lifestyle Furniture at Snugborough Trading Estate, Union Mills, and let your home blossom beautifully. Open 7 days a week.
Whether starting a new business or building up your existing business, come and talk to the accounts and tax experts at Nicola Bowker & Co. With their holistic approach to business advice, Nicola Bowker & Co. will work with you to achieve success. For accounts that work, call 861 271.
From our castles to our cottages, our museums, and the Great Laxey Wheel, you'll find hidden treasures around every corner when you visit a Manx National Heritage Site. Fill your summer making treasured memories with Manx National Heritage. Sites now open every day. By visiting, you help protect our treasured island for generations to come. Plan your visit today at manxnationalheritage.im.
Tonight on Manx Radio at 5:30, join Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark, for Countryside.
On Sunday, I went along to Laxey to the annual Seed Swap and Plant Share, where I caught up with Tanya Anderson from the Lovely Greens and also Brenda Killick from the Douglas Allotment Association.
I joined the Manx Airsoft group on one of their game days up the north of the Isle of Man, and I stayed north to speak to one of the dairy farmers newish into the trade, Jacob Duggan.
That's all in Countryside tonight here on Manx Radio at 5:30. And don't forget, you can download and subscribe to the podcast for free at manxradio.com.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
22 minutes before 1. We were on the boat and there was no bus. It was mentioning yesterday about the fact that the bus for the Liverpool landing stage is kind of akimbo and doesn't tie up with the boat times. Of course, the boat times can be altered sometimes. We were on the boat, no bus at the terminal. It was nice weather to walk on arrival, but we had to walk back on return. My partner had surgery and was struggling to walk, and she just made it, says Paul. Of course, there was a Mannin delay, wasn't there, until about 9:15 leaving Liverpool. She didn't get to Douglas till gone midnight. That problem with the engine, apparently, on one of the engines, one was out of commission. Apparently, it's all been sorted now, so it's all absolutely fine. The person who put that on should be arrested for threatening behaviour. MHKs don't deserve that sort of behaviour, says 883. And Dick said you don't need the world's supply of batteries to store electricity. For decades all over the world, people use hydropower to drive electric turbines and use any excess electricity to pump the water back to the reservoirs. So the huge flow of water can be reused when it's needed. Works in Wales, especially well in British Columbia. With the BC Hydro people, they pay 9p for a kilowatt hour. Stop it. Seriously. We are donkey's years away from having excess power. Well, I guess the one thing we have already is the Sulby Reservoir, but whether or not there is a tiny hydroelectric facility there, but whether or not it could be done, I mean, that was built relatively quickly, the Sulby Res, but whether or not it would fit into hydroelectric, we don't know. And remember, that would change, if we built a new hydroelectric facility, that would change the landscape of the Isle of Man. I feel the residents on the Isle of Man are getting a very poor service from Manx Care. We're not getting the excellent consultants as the hospital is only a cottage hospital. We're now being asked for a further 2%. Where is the extra fund going to go? Will it go to fund managers, says Kay. And Juan's with us now. Hi, Juan.
Oh, how are things on the Isle of Woke at the moment, Andy?
Well, you know. What's the weather like in Florida, Juan?
Well, yesterday was 91, today's 72. That's Florida for you. So, I think it's they're getting me ready for my preparation to come home. So I was just picking up on a few things over the last few days there, Andy, and I think you were talking to Tony B yesterday there, and you were talking about Minister Michelle Haywood, and you mentioned the minister being in the firing line. Andy, you can't say these things these days. Oh, you left yourself open there. You know, we've got a whole world full of wokeism, haven't we? And everyone now jumps at a word. Someone's being called a word. My God, I was in a job for how many years saying that? You know what I'm talking about, where we worked on reaction, of getting reaction from people. And we went out at the end of the day happy that we'd done our job, that we got reaction. And I look now at, some of this stuff, and they're going to tie it down to, and just listen to Lawrence talking there, tying it down to what's happened in the UK. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but how far do you go with protecting people from words? It's the old sticks and stones issue. And now it's not sticks and stones anymore, is it? We want to make a law to stop that happening. So how far do we go with your rights of saying things? Where's the boundary? It's a difficult one, I know, but where's the boundary?
Well, I mean, do you remember, it must be, is it really 10 years ago that Eddie Tier, when he was on MHK, had to fit security lights around his house when he was Treasury Minister? So it's nothing that's really new. Politicians have been hassled in the past, but now social media is there, Juan. It adds another dimension to it.
It does add another dimension, but if we bring it back to the crux of the reason, there has to be a trigger point for someone really to say that. And the trigger point at the moment seems to be the fact that our government are not doing the will of the people. And that's the basis of this, where this has come from, because other than that, there wouldn't have been a petition to start with. We've got people and ministers who are doing things that the people don't like, and the government are not reading the room properly. If you look at, and I'm sure you do, Andy, look at the threads and what's going on in social media, people are up in arms about what is happening to their island and the way that it's going. And they're confused that politicians are not doing the will of the people. They're doing the will of someone, but not the people at the moment. And I refer back to what Julian pointed out before. We've spoke many times about the unnamed people behind these ministers, and that's why I asked Michelle Haywood to come out and say that she actually has read everything that she's put about these access bills. And these people that we've been named, like More Blessing Peru and Emily Curfew, I don't know, it's very hard to get these Manx names right. I think I spelled Curfew right there. But it's, these people are in power, and when we look at their actual, their connected history and going back through where they've been and what they've done, we ask the question of what, these politicians, what are they actually doing? And are they actually understanding what they're signing off? And there's people now who are connected through the internet, good and bad, like we've said. But people are now searching and looking a little bit more than what they did before, especially since COVID, because they don't trust the government as much as what they did. And, if people are confused and people are upset about not getting heard, then you're going to get pushback.
Well, there is another answer to that as well. If people are concerned about not being heard, there are elections that you can stand for. and it's a shame that a lot of the local elections that will be taking place in a couple of weeks' time were uncontested, Ewan. So, there's no point complaining about something and then not taking the opportunity to do something about it. If you like, the analogy is you're standing on the sidelines criticising the team on the pitch when you've been offered a pair of boots and some shorts and a shirt, but you won't go on and play. So some people are content to stand on the sidelines and moan, and yet when they do get the opportunity to do something about it, don't.
No, I totally agree with you, and I've got 2 points on that. And I've mentioned this several times on here about people standing for local authority elections, which it keeps government in line, and I think it's important. It does need reform, but it's important to have government councillors and elected representatives in your area. Although I disagree with a lot Lamara Crane says, she's been pushing in Ramsey for some time now to get people to stand for election, and I totally agree with her on that point. Not many others, but I do agree with her on that point. But on the same point, you people that have gone in have been put in with the will of the people, and they expect them to listen to them, and that's not what's happening. So people have been elected and people have stood, but now people are going, hey, we're not getting listened to. You're doing things here. The whole demographics of the island is changing, and people are getting a little bit concerned of what's going on. Well, more than a little bit concerned. Now, back to that same point, Andy, if you've got 24 people in there, and the frustration is, I think there's about 2 or 3 which actually are verbally standing up and saying things at the moment, then the frustration carries. And I do agree with your point. You've got a chance to stand. And again, another point that I have here as well, standing as an independent is not cutting the mustard at the moment. I personally feel this is the most important time to have a political party. To go in there with a 10-point agenda to sort this island out and get it back on track, because independence is not cutting it. The parties we've got there are not cutting it. I think it's time for a new party. I think it's time for people to get together and stick together with a 10-point, 12-point view of the problems that we've got in this island, because that's the only way that I see that this is going to get fixed.
Okay, appreciate it, Joe, and thanks for... Oh, by the way, your cousin Pip says hello, by the way.
I'll bear that one in mind. Cheers, Andy.
Good to hear from you. It's 12 minutes before 1.
Spring, a time for new beginnings and nature. This season, why not have a fresh start by switching your savings to Guernsey's Bank Skipton International and watch them grow. Skipton International offers a range of savings accounts, from fixed term to notice and easy access, enabling your savings to bloom for longer. So make this spring one to remember by switching to Skipton International today.
For details of all Skipton International savings products, call 01481 730 730 or visit skiptoninternational.com. Skipton International is licensed to take deposits by the GFSC and is a participant in the Guernsey Banking Deposit Compensation Scheme. See dcs.gg.
Drive smarter, drive more reliable, drive a great deal at Mannin Motors, with a superb range of cars for every budget, always available, and if we don't have it, we'll source it. Plus, servicing, valeting and prestige detailing too. Mannin Motors, Richmond Hill, Douglas. Find us on Facebook or call 420 420. That's 420 420. Drive a better bargain at Mannin Motors.
Easter Sunday and Monday, bring the family to the Gradle Glen Railway Easter Bunny trains from 10 to 4:30. Catch the train from Lencone Station to see the Easter Bunny at the Sea Lion Rocks tea rooms with free Easter eggs for the children. Enter our free Easter egg hunt to win a £100 voucher for the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company, a £100 voucher from Waltons, a giant Easter Bunny, and a year's family pass to Gradle Glen Railway. Tickets must be purchased in advance at ggr.org.uk. Supported by your nation station, Manx Radio.
The previous message was brought to you by QVH, the island's premier serviced offices and co-working space in the heart of Douglas. Call 639 940 for more information or visit qvhpremierofficespace.com.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
A note in from Donald, who said, have you heard people are queuing up Palatine practice at 7:30 to make an appointment? Is that true? Have you been queuing at Palatine? I hope the clubs that use the roads for races, including the TT, pay towards the upkeep of the TT course, because it's always receiving special treatment, says Sue. OK, Sue, well, I don't think they pay specially to be there, but they do bring money with them. But anyway, the Ferraris are quite often at Derby Motor Museum when they're over, said G. Well, there's plenty of space there, isn't there? I do hope the 20 mile per hour speed limit will do EGR valves and DPF systems on modern cars a world of good. Is the government going to help to pay to fix these issues due to the government imposing a 20 mile per hour speed limit from 795? I find it a concern that Dr. Allison's already dismissed the Medical Society response to the ongoing consultation on the health levy, says Gaz on 313. And I've got other people mentioning that Eddie Tear had to fit security lights around his house when he was Treasury Minister. I just wonder what your thoughts are about people in public life. And, I mean, let's assume that the Michelle Haywood being chased from office with a shotgun, let's assume that's a flippant, off-the-cuff remark. It's not something to be flippant about. I'm not saying you should be, but let's assume it's the equivalent of graffiti on a wall, not meant to be taken seriously. It is to be taken seriously, but what about the person who wrote it? I mean, why would you do that? Why would you mention a firearm in that case? Do we know how many staff DHSC employ to write policies for Manx Care to implement, and if the DHSC takes account of the resources that Manx Care need to do it? It's the wrong thing to say. It's the wrong thing to say these days. At one time, it would have just been a bad joke, says Alan. But talking about shotguns, firearms, nowadays, not really. Eddie's on now. Hi, Eddie.
How are you doing, Andy?
Very well, thanks.
Yeah, that's good. Lovely day. Smashing, isn't it?
It's gorgeous.
I've been in listening mode for a while, and I get frustrated as well. Just been listening to doing exactly, the things that everybody out here is thinking. And you had the other fella on earlier, is it Tony? Yeah. All these things. I mean, during the course of this government, they kept saying all the time, we're going to listen to the people. But the reason why we're getting all these silly comments on Facebook and that, because they are silly, they're just, like you said, they're flippant. It's a frustration of the people out here because we've got a government that ain't listening at all. There's no way they're listening to anything. So, in my opinion, the government shouldn't moan about these criticisms. They're causing them. They're inciting the public to be that way. It's just the public can only take so much. Tim called a vote of no confidence. If the public here had a say in it, it's unanimous. There is no confidence in the government.
Well, that's nothing. I mean, Eddie, that's nothing new. I mean, while ever there've been in the past, lots of people get disgruntled with the government, because governments will do things that they don't like. I mean, Miles Walker will testify to that back in the 1980s.
I disagree in a sense because I've been on the island for almost 60 years, and I've seen different governments after different governments, and this particular government, I have never seen so much discontent out here from the people.
But Eddie, there was no social media before.
People spoke before. I knew a lot of these people. The Isle of Man is a small place. I mean, I know Tony personally. I know, a lot of them personally. I have done through the years. I've worked for quite a few of them. So, and they talk to you. So, No, this one is very, very suspiciously wrong. It is. They won't give you an answer. I mean, you take, for instance, the topical bit at the moment is Michelle Haywood. Why on earth would you want to do things just like that without consultation, without the police knowing about it, and then expect the public to be okay about it? It's just ludicrous, isn't it, when you think about it? So it's just asking for it.
Well,
so they've incited their own problems.
Okay. Well, Michelle Haywood wanted the job. She took the job, didn't she? And presumably Michelle Haywood knew what she was getting into. Anybody who becomes Minister for Infrastructure knows full well that they're walking into a very hot kitchen.
Yeah, but you've had a lot of people say she's only doing what she's told. Right? Yeah. It's as simple as that. So if the civil servants are to blame, let somebody stand up and be counted. And the one thing I would love to see is for this government to get any credit whatsoever with the people out here and myself, is to just admit that they've got things wrong now and again. Do a U-turn. Just change things. There is no need to spend £400,000, is it, on signage? Leave it as it is. It works. Don't fix what's not broken.
Okay. All right.
You know, so many things.
All right. We got to go.
All right, Andy.
Thanks for being with us today.
Pleasure.
Good to hear from you. It's 4 minutes before 1. Wow. The person who said that a politician should be removed with a shotgun should be removed from the Isle of Man forever. This is Derek on 505. MHKs need to stop making stupid rules that are clearly angering the Manx public. They ask for feedback and go ahead and do it anyway. We don't need a 20 mile per hour speed limit. We're adult. We don't really need mothering by overpaid people. They're turning the Isle of Man into a nanny state trying to control us. We should stand up to those people. The words of Fred. The minister wasn't threatened with a shotgun. The Facebook question was how to remove MHKs, suggesting 2 options. Then someone suggested the third option, a shotgun. Point taken, 039, but why? That's it. Thanks to Chris on the phones today. Back tomorrow with another open line.
WINT.